Good morning. Hello, and thank you for joining the Washtenaw County Road Commission's virtual construction information meeting regarding the Bemis Road paving project in Augusta and Ypsilanti Townships. Today, I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before turning it over to staff for a presentation about the project, and then we will open the presentation up to your questions. Joining me in today's meeting is Project Manager of Design and Construction's James Hui. The meeting audio and video is being recorded, and it will be posted to the project webpage on wcroads.org in the next day or two. After the presentation, you will be asked to virtually raise your hand during the Q&A. I will provide instruction at that time on how to do this from either your computer, the Zoom app, or your touch-tone phone. The chat feature for this meeting is turned on. If you have a question during the presentation, feel free to ask it in the chat, and we will address it during the Q&A period. You can find the chat window at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to turn on closed captions, click the three dots labeled More at the bottom of your screen. Okay, and the floor is yours, James.
Thanks, Emma. Hey, hello again. My name is James. I will be the project manager on this reconstruction project on Bemis Road. This is in between Stony Creek and Hitchingham Road, as Emma mentioned. Just want to start off by saying thanks for coming, and I've received quite a few emails and questions about the project already. Just give me a little bit of time. I'll plan to respond to everybody that has asked for information shortly. So please keep an eye out for my answers back. I can get in more detail with you on a person-to-person basis than over this video. So continuing on with the presentation, the map of the project is shown on the screen here. The orange line is approximately the limits of what we'll be working on. Part of this project will be going through the intersection of Stony Creek. As of right now, the plan is to keep Stony Creek open while we work on the approach west of the intersection, but for the most part, we do not expect Stony Creek to be closed during our project. But with that being said, everything within this orange line will be closed for the project itself due to all the work that we'll be doing there. Next slide. So for those that live and drive through this area, this is Bemis Road. This is a fairly common type of road in our county, in some of the more rural areas. It's gravel. Typically, there's a lot of washboarding, a lot of holes. Our plan is to completely replace this with an asphalt surface, and it will be widened to the standard width that we typically do for a road like this. Next slide. So just to talk about what to expect, it will be very different throughout the project. It will be inconvenient for sure, especially for people living on the project. I do highly recommend that those that do live in the project to just keep an eye out for machinery and equipment. Most of the time they should see you, but for some of the times that they don't, it's good for everybody to be safe. So to start off, we will be grading the road and ditching. Ditching is very important for new roads and our paved roads, just to make sure that the water stays off the road and away. Water is one of the biggest issues to keeping a road good. So this is kind of what it'll look like. This is a picture taken from a different project. But again, the roads won't be the same as you're used to now. It will be, dug up. It might not be traversable in a lot of spots. The contractor will make sure that any residents within our project will have a way in and out of their property. It might be, you might have to go one way instead of, both directions, just depending on the duration of the project and where we're at on the project. But we will make sure to clearly communicate that to you as that time comes. Next slide. Part of our project, closer towards the west side of the project limits, we will be putting in storm sewer. We've just determined that ditching is not enough in this area. There might be a lot of impact to homes and trees. So we are installing storm sewer and curb and gutter through some of these locations. When we do install storm sewer, there will be crossings in the road where there will be a big hole in the road when we install the sewer. So like I mentioned before, when we do install a crossroad sewer, you might not be able to drive a car over this location. So you might have to go the other direction to get in and out of your property. Next slide. We do have one larger culvert that's on the east end. It's over the Hewins drain that we'll be replacing as a part of this project. This type of culvert is a little bit different from our storm sewers. Storm sewers are typically put in to carry water away from the road in a project. These crossroad culverts is more so for streams or drains or anything else that travels underneath our road. So again, as I mentioned before, when we do replace a culvert like this, there will be a very large hole where the culvert used to be. It takes a day or two to get the culvert put back in. So your traffic patterns might be a little bit different and going to and from your house during this time. Next slide. Like I mentioned before, we are installing curb and gutter at the west end for a short limit or for a short distance from the west end of the project. This was determined because we just needed to make sure we were able to guide water away from the road, but also not have major impacts to some of the areas around there. So please keep an eye out for when we do install curb and gutter. There is a time where the curb needs to be cured. We do hope that residents don't, touch or disturb any of this material because it is quite time consuming to replace the curb or anything concrete in particular. Next slide. So after we put in the storm sewers and we put in the curb, we'll be putting a stone base. It'll look something like this. It will still be a little dusty. It'll still be a little bumpy. This is ultimately what will be underneath the asphalt pavement. For us to have a good pavement, we need to have very good stone base. So as you drive through the area as a resident that lives in the area, please make sure to drive slowly. Any ruts or anything like that in the stone base, might not be caught before we pave the road back. So we just hope to make sure that this is as good as possible before we pave. Next slide. And then the paving process, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this process, but asphalt pavement is great because it cures fast. Curing is not the right word, but it's drivable pretty soon after we pave. So when we are paving right in front of your driveway, please give us a little bit of time. We do have to roll it. We do have to compact it. We do have to make sure it's drivable before a car goes on it. So usually that takes about half an hour to an hour after we pave. So if you do see us come through with the paver and you need to get in and out, please wave someone down, ask someone if you are able to drive on the surface. Because coming back through and having to rip it out and pave it again is just, not ideal for something like this. Next slide. So this is what our typical road section looks like. Like I mentioned before, we do have guidelines on how wide and how deep our ditches go. So for this road cross section, we will be having a 30-foot wide paved surface. This includes 11-foot lanes in each direction, and then 4-foot paved shoulders. And then we'll have about 2 feet of aggregate shoulders on each side. And then you can see kind of this picture is just how everything comes into place, with the base and the ag base and the asphalt surface, how everything plays together on making a road. Next slide. So to be transparent about our funding, this was agreed to in our 4-year countywide non-motorized millage with the townships. Both Augusta and Ypsilanti Townships have agreed and on this stretch of road to be paved. We're estimating about $1.4 million worth of work on here. As of right now, that's an estimate. We're still awaiting contractor prices. But just to be transparent, this is what we've budgeted into this project. Next slide. So the tentative schedule, again, we're waiting on just bidding documents and having a contractor. We do expect this project to start later this summer in 2024. With some of the restrictions that we might have with the culvert replacements, it's most likely not going to happen until after July. Again, more detailed time would be provided on our website and communicated out in our email releases once we do get more information from the contractor. We anticipate about 12 weeks of construction. Again, I apologize in advance. It would be very inconvenient for a lot of residents in here. Luckily, there's a lot of other roads in the area that you can detour around for people that do commute through this area. But it will be roughly 12 weeks of work in this area. Next slide. So the reason we're having this presentation so early is that we want to get ahead of any work that's coming out here. Part of our restrictions and environmental restrictions with the state, we have to remove trees in a winter season. It doesn't feel like winter right now, but technically we're still in the winter season. So we will be out there removing trees. All the residents that were in the area have been contacted or notified in some way, shape, or form. We have noted that a few residents have not responded about if they want their wood or not. So if you are on this call and you do want wood and you haven't been talked to yet, please give us an email, give us a call. We just want to make sure everything's sorted out as we cut trees down. We do expect the tree service to be out there sometimes next week. Again, please keep an eye out. Please be safe. They will be taking up part of the road to get the work done. And we do have quite a few trees, marked out for removal as you drive through there. And again, this is just for the road project itself. We don't intend to cut trees that we don't need to. Almost all the trees that we cut are for the safety of motorists or the necessity of the road itself. Next slide. So impact the traffic, I think I've hammered on this quite a bit already. During this project, the road between Stony Creek and Hitchingham will be closed to all commuting traffic. Anybody that lives inside our closure, we will make sure that you have access in and out of the project. And if we need you to go in one direction out of your home, we will let you know. But again, it all depends on what phase of the project we're on and what we're working on at that time. We will, go back, please. We will have a traffic detour posted. Again, that is our recommended route for trucks and motorists. We understand that there are other roads that you may want to take if you're more familiar with the area. But again, these will be our recommended detour route. Next page, please. It's tough closing a road. I understand. It's very inconveniencing for a lot of motorists in the area. But ultimately, we want to do this job efficiently. It's hard to reconstruct an entire road with trying to maintain access for one-way traffic. So we do take a lot of consideration into making a road closure. And we definitely understand that it is going to be inconveniencing for a lot of motorists going through here. But please be aware that when we do have road close signs up and barricades up, It doesn't mean that you can try to sneak through the barricades. It doesn't mean you can move the barricades. Ultimately, we do have workers on site. They don't expect cars coming through. And if you're driving through at normal speeds on a job site, an accident can happen. So we just want to prevent that as much as possible. Next slide. So here's our detour. Again, this is our recommended detour. This will be the route that trucks take if there are trucks in the area. But I understand that, this might be a longer detour. And if you want to take another route, that is up to you. But this is our recommended detour. Next slide, please. So I am free to take any calls, any emails. My name and information will be on our project website as well. Feel free if you have any concerns or questions, please reach out. We are still, working through a lot of design. So if there's anything specific you might need, let me know as well. We hope to be able to improve, this location as best as possible for you all. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, James. Okay. Now I'm just going to take a second to show you guys the project webpage. Okay, so I've opened a regular browser and I've gone to our website, which is wcroads.org. Once you get to our homepage, there's going to be a menu bar at the top. One of the options is going to be roadwork and construction. On the drop-down menu that pops up, you want to click on current projects. Once you get to our current projects page, you'll be able to see an interactive map of all the construction projects that we have taking place throughout the county. If you scroll further down, you'll be able to see tiles, which are individual project web pages that we have for each of the construction projects taking place in our county. Here is the one for Bemis Road. If you click on it, you'll be able to see a general map of the project location, township information, the description of work, the impact of traffic, and then the funding sources as well. Under latest updates, you'll be able to see any project updates, road advisories, or communications relating to this project specifically. You can find James's contact information here, and then there's also the detour link under helpful links as well. I also recommend for everyone to click on subscribe to project updates. Here, you'll be able to subscribe your own email to any advisories, townships, projects that you might be interested in, so you can be notified immediately of what work is taking place and where. Okay. Now let's get to the question and answer period. Burkholz, do you have something you'd like to add?
I do. Thanks, Emma. My name is Aaron Burkholz. I'm the Assistant Director of Engineering here at the Road Commission. First of all, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your schedule to attend the meeting today. I want to thank Emma and James for taking their time and putting forth their efforts to offer this valued virtual public meeting opportunity to share this information with our constituents. And I just want to mention there are other area projects, and in scheduling these projects, we are thoughtful about overlapping projects, about projects that would have impacts on motorists as they try to get around one project. They may run into another one, and so it's really important for area motorists and residents to take advantage of the Road Commission website. In particular, to take a look at the road work map that's available there and look at some of the other area projects. A couple that I'll mention, we are building a roundabout at Whitaker and Willis Road this summer. So that one, there may be some potential overlap between the roundabout construction at Whitaker and Willis and this construction that we're talking about today on Bemis Road between Stony Creek and Hitchingham. And then we've also got a bridge replacement project on Stony Creek Road between Textile Road and Whitaker Road. And again, that's going to require a full closure of the road to replace that bridge. And again, there could be some overlap there too, but we're fortunate that there are some good available detour routes. And the detour routes that we put signs along are paved detour routes. James mentioned that there are other routes available that will follow unpaved roads. Certainly motorists are able to take those unpaved routes if they hope to shorten their drive around. And we've been discussing this situation with our district foreman and making sure as we might need to, we will respond to unpaved road conditions if we find that traffic is having an impact. If motorists choose to follow another detour route that is not the signed detour route, we'll respond appropriately to that need as the need may arise. So just a few other notes. Again, I appreciate Emma and James taking the time this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, now let's get to the question and answer portion of this presentation. If you are viewing the meeting on your computer, you first want to make sure you click on Join Audio. You can then raise your hand by clicking on the Participants or the Reactions button at the bottom of your screen, and then the Raise Hand button at the bottom right of your screen. If you dialed into the meeting from your touch tone phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. As the meeting host, I will unmute participants with raised hands one at a time. I will announce your username or last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to speak. We are happy to answer as many questions as possible. Please just be respectful of each other's time. If your question is answered before you are called on, you can lower your hand by clicking the lower hand button or by dialing *9. Okay. I see we got a lot of hands raised, so I will go ahead and start with Joseph Sella. I'll ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Good morning. Good morning, James. Thank you for your great briefing. A couple of questions on my mind would be soon enough, this will probably turn into Bemis Speedway drag strip. What is the process of, I guess, tracking that and doing a speed study before anything is posted, assuming that this has not already been decided upon a particularly posted speed? That's my first question.
Okay, yeah, thanks for your question. Good to talk to you again, Joseph.
You too, sir.
So for speed studies, once we do pave the road, we understand that typically motorists are a little bit more comfortable driving on paved surfaces. We will do a speed analysis as necessary to understand the patterns that are out here. That could take a little bit of time, but that could ultimately help us determine, if we need to do a speed limit or if we need to lower the speed limit. All that stuff has to happen after the road is paved, just so we can observe, what could happen on the job site.
You say as necessary. Does that mean just residents being vigilant, staying in contact with the sheriff's substation or your offices or both?
So I think if Brent can chime in on this, I'm not really sure if we do it immediately after on our own accord, but I know.
Thanks, James. You had a good description. So we have to let the roadway kind of normalize. So people will end up finding this route. And so we typically, the roadway initially will be unposted 55 up to 55 miles an hour based on the conditions of the road. But we will let the roadway kind of normalize over a period of time, normally about anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Then we'll perform a speed study and determine, excuse me, what the 85th percentile speed is. And when we do that, it's just a spot check, and we'll probably pick a couple locations along the route, and then determine if we need to engage with the Michigan State Police. So the Michigan State Police is the one that establishes and performs the official speed study. So we will do our initial check and determine what we're seeing along that corridor, and then engage with the Michigan State Police if necessary. But if you are seeing any type of bad behavior or anything along the corridor, we would definitely encourage you to contact the Sheriff's Department.
My second question is, thank you for that, very helpful, informative, is with respect to the Hewins Creek South Trailhead parking, very tiny parking lot. Always people parking along the road. There will now be a ditch there. What I guess is the plan for cars. I mean, a car would be on the roadway, I suppose, considering the gravel. If they decide to park outside of what's probably a 4 or 5 car lot, is there is there a sign study as there is a speed study? What have you been in touch with the township about that? Would
We
welcome
have not.
any
Yeah,
information on that.
Yeah, I can answer that question too. So if we determine there are issues with the parking, particularly with that parking lot, then we would evaluate that and determine, if there are any reasons for us to establish or restrict the parking. But if there are vehicles that are now parking and they're within the traveled way, those vehicles can be cited regardless if there's signs or not up. So based on the Michigan Vehicle Code, it does allow for that law enforcement to cite those drivers if they're within the traveled way. But we can certainly monitor that as once this roadway gets paved and determine if we need to work with the township on maybe expanding the lot, or if there are if we do need to look at restricting parking along that frontage.
Much appreciated. Yeah, as it is, they're spilling onto the roadway, so I'm sure it'll be even tighter. But that's all I have. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. I've got a question in the chat from Daniel. Why isn't the section of Bemis between Carpenter and Stony Creek Road being done at the same time? Is that scheduled for another year, perhaps?
Like I mentioned before, our funding is for just this stretch. This was agreed to between the road commission and the townships. There is a chance for the Carpenter stretch to be paved in the future. But as of right now, I don't know if we have that determined yet or not.
Awesome.
I
Would you
can
like to add
elaborate a little
something?
more on that. So right now, there's nothing programmed as far as funding for that segment of road. So it's, again, like James said, we certainly can look for that in the future, but right now there's nothing programmed as far as funding for that segment. Certainly it does make sense, but to maybe expand it, but we're connecting Bemis Road between 2 primary roads of Hitchingham and Stony Creek. So then we would have to evaluate, determine if we need to expand that, this or not, or if there's any desire or appetite to try and search for funding for that next segment.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Nanette, I see that you have your hand raised, so I will ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Hi. So my question was similar about the whether Bemis or Stony Creek would ever be paved. I know there's 4 different townships that come in together with Pittsfield, York, Ypsi, and Augusta. So that's always been one reason they say that they're never going to do it or consider it. But my other concern is we have so much traffic on this road already, and there is so much dust on the road. They put brine down on it 3 times a year on the Augusta Ypsi side of it, so between Stony Creek and Munger. I live on a hill. You can't see coming out of the driveway, and they continuously cut the road down more so that you can't see. But what's going to be done about the dust? Because as soon as this section, during it, it's going to be bad. But when this section gets done, there's obviously some development that's going to happen with housing. And then this part of Bemis between Carpenter and Stony Creek becomes like a super highway. And the dust is just, it's unbearable. I mean, we can't go in our backyard and sit on our furniture without washing it all down first. And that's now. This is going to get worse. And my other concern is that stop sign on Bemis and Stony Creek. There's always accidents there because people come off the dirt road and they don't stop in time, and they skate right through onto Stony Creek Road off of Bemis.
So I failed to mention that part of our project at the Stony Creek intersection is to include left turn lanes. which is why we're going a little bit past, just west of the intersection at Stony Creek. With the left turn lanes and the widening that is needed for the left turn lanes at that intersection, we would improve the stop situation that's there. So I'm hopeful that, you know, if we provide a little bit more space, it would be a least dangerous position to be in as a motorist coming out of that area. In regards to your dust issue that you have on Bemis Road, just west of Stony Creek, that is going to be usually a maintenance task that is performed throughout the year, usually throughout the summer. If there is an increased need for additional dust control, please reach out to your township, and that's typically something that is agreed upon between the townships and the road commission. The number of times that dust control is applied to the road.
Right, and our township says it's 3 times, but with all the added traffic, once this road gets paved, 3 times isn't sufficient.
Right, so then that would be, so once this road is paved, that would be something that I believe the township and the road commission would have to reconsider. And that would be a decision that would be made, you know, after the project is done. But
so we're between, I'm on Augusta Township. The north side of my road is Ypsi Township. So who is responsible for it?
I can elaborate on that. So, like James said, dust control is now a maintenance activity. In the past, we have, particularly on local roads, we'd work with the townships on the number of dust control that they could then purchase do additional on local roads. But now that's something that the road commission handles. And so certainly we will do 3 dust control applications throughout the summer. And typically that comes after we have graded the road. Certainly if there's continuing issues, I would call our main number, and then we can, or through our C-Click Fix app, our WCRC Fix It, and put a complaint or a concern, and then we can come and evaluate that and determine if additional applications can be applied. We certainly we're limited also environmentally on the number of applications because that's a brine material. So we can look at additional scraping or patching along that segment of road, but we can work with our maintenance folks to maybe look and pay more attention to that road. But certainly if you're seeing something, please contact our office or put in a citizen complaint for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm getting some more questions in the chat. So I have Cindy Davidson asking, will Bemis at the intersection of Hitchingham be closed? There are 3 projects being done pretty much at the same time.
yes, so if you're looking at the map now, the southern leg will be closed, but the northern leg will be accessible for motorists for the project.
Awesome. And then one more comment. Alex Faulkner says, my family is excited about the Bemis Road paving project as it will save us travel time every single day. Thank you. And then I have a few people with their hand raised as well. Eric Sinclair, I'll ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Hi, thanks again for doing this. My question was kind of asked before, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. Will the Stony Creek intersection be controlled with a 4-way stop or a stoplight? Because of the awkward angle and grade and some big trees there, it's kind of dangerous as is. I myself got into an accident there about 15 years ago, so having a 4-way stop would be sorely needed. Thank you.
Yeah, so as of right now, we're still maintaining the 2-way stop that's out there now. For us to change a configuration or how stops work at an intersection, it would have to be warranted. So again, once the project is complete, we would do a study at the intersection just to see if it warrants a signal, additional stops, or anything else that could improve the intersection. But as of right now, with this project scope, we are not changing how that stop works at the intersection.
Okay. Okay, and then I also have Will with their hand raised, Will J. I'll ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm relatively a new resident to the township, so I'm only just now learning about these projects, so you guys can look forward to hearing from me more. One of the concerns I have is that when we pave a road, I think James already alluded to this, is that does allow traffic to flow faster. And on these rural roads, and it looked like the schematic that James pulled up didn't show a substantial shoulder, and certainly didn't even show anything like a bike lane. So it's just really dangerous to be a pedestrian or a biker on these roads. So recognizing that the plan for this road is already put forth, I guess my question is what is the road commission going to do moving forward to maintain access for pedestrians and bikers on roads like this? In this case, we have a large community with thousands of people directly east of one of the most significant parks in the township, and so you're really going to take away access for youth or folks who don't have vehicles, or just people who would just like to bike to rolling hills and around the space. Thank you.
Yes, great question. I think I've received a couple email concerns about that as well. And our road cross section in this area, again, has to be through our typical standards with the state. We have design guidelines on how to design how wide our road needs to be. I understand that typically gravel roads do have a lot more pedestrian traffic just because it's not marked out to be lanes. It's not, it's a little bit more relaxed in terms of who wants to use it. But on this project itself, as I mentioned in one of my slides, we will be having 4-foot paved shoulders and 6-foot stone shoulders on the job on both directions. Typically in our throughout the county, we mark those out as additional alternate usage. We don't on this project, we're not dedicating that as a bike lane or a pedestrian lane, but whenever we do have a 4-foot wide paved shoulder on each side of the road, that's typically where pedestrians or bike users tend to ride on.
Yeah, and James, I think that maybe you misspoke. Again, on this project, and James, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to do a 4-foot paved shoulder and a 2-foot gravel shoulder for a total shoulder width of 6 feet, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So there is a significant amount of shoulder area along either side of the road, which certainly is an improvement over, I'll say, many of the paved roads in our more rural areas. Unfortunately, when those roads were constructed decades ago, there may not have been a significant paved shoulder area included. And so again, this will be an upgrade from what may be typical in our more rural areas. Having that additional space for bikes and pedestrians on that paved shoulder, extending over onto the gravel shoulder as well.
Okay. I see another person with their hand raised. Jeremy, I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Yes, actually, most of my question was just kind of answered in the last. I am a pedestrian user of this road and currently go to Hewens quite often with our kids and to walk the dog and all that. And we can walk Bemis, and it's right now not enough traffic that it's too much concern. With the paving, I want to know 4-foot pavement and then 2 foot of gravel. I think will be okay enough. My next concern, though, then is, did I hear it was a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit that's going to be added to this?
So we aren't adding a speed limit to this road yet. We will have to consider the speed limit after a speed study has been performed. So when we do have unposted street speed, if we have unposted speeds on a road, it's typically 55 is what we expect, as it is now.
Yeah, and just to touch on that again, James, and Brent spoke to it a little bit earlier. In the current condition, this being an unpaved county road, there is no posted speed limit. Prima facie speed is 55 miles per hour or whatever is safe and reasonable based on roadway conditions. And so that's left up to each individual driver to determine what is safe and reasonable based on those roadway conditions. With an unpaved road, the surface is highly variable. One of the earlier pictures in the today's meeting, it showed the condition of Bemis Road. And again, that unpaved road changes significantly depending on time of year and weather conditions. And so again, there's not a means by which a speed limit can be reasonably determined and posted on an unpaved road. So again, unpaved is prima facie 55 or whatever is safe and reasonable for road conditions. And once we pave the road, then we would allow some time for the traffic to normalize based on the new road section, the paved road section. And then somewhere in about 3 to 6 months, we would perform a speed study. We would determine what the most effective speed limit would be to be posted, but ultimately that decision is left up to the Michigan State Police. So again, there's going to be some time involved here. We can't simply build the road, reconstruct the road, pave the road, and then put a speed limit out there. We really do need to provide some time thereafter for the traffic to normalize, and then we can determine what the best speed limit would be to set on this section of road.
Okay. And then a final question. I know you're going across, you said there's going to be the left-hand turn lanes at the Stony Creek and Bemis intersection. There are two other streets that are going to connect to this project, a little bit of Hitchingham, and then also there's a T-ticket, which then connects to Longmeadow. For T-ticket, how far in might you pave some of it so that when we're trying to pull onto Bemis, you know, it's safe enough. We're not trying to come off gravel and then pull onto it. Is it come in like 10 feet, 20 feet onto those connecting roads?
Yeah, so for T-ticket, since that's a side street, that's on the south side of Bemis. Typically, we would do about 30 to 50 feet of approach work for a side street like that, and that will be all paved. And that's more so to protect the road itself, but it does provide a convenience for people turning onto the Bemis Road.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got another question in the chat as well. I've got Workstation 12 has asked, I've lived here for several decades. The traffic has increased so much over that time. I pulled many vehicles from the ditches to date, and they've all been well. I fear that the paving will increase traffic accidents. Is it possible not to pave Bemis Road?
Yeah, I'll jump in, James. No,
No.
we are moving forward with the project at this point. Again, as James touched on earlier in the meeting, based on the current countywide road millage, this project was identified as part of that millage undertaking. And so, no, the project is moving forward at this point. The purpose of this meeting is to simply inform the public and make everyone aware of the intentions and to prepare people for the upcoming construction.
Awesome. Okay. And then I see a hand raised from Rhonda from Rolling Hills. I will ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Hi, I have a couple of questions, one as a park employee at Rolling Hills and one as a resident. First, I know you said you don't have plans to close Stony Creek at all. Obviously, I want to make sure that traffic or the road is staying open for water park guests through the summer. If there is an event where you do have to close Stony Creek, will we get some advance notice so we would be able to notify our patrons?
Yeah, so again, we do not intend to close Stony Creek Road at all. That is part of our detour. But the west approach on Bemis Road will be closed for a small duration of time, just for the work to be done to widen that part for our left turn lane. So if your entrance is through Stony Creek, I don't anticipate any issues with access to your park.
Okay, and then secondary, I know you said, this is my question as a resident. I know you said you have to wait for the traffic study afterwards to see if it would be good to put in a four-way stop or possibly a light there. I believe that there is probably enough data right now to show that that is a very dangerous corner. And I think paving Bemis, well, I think it's going to be great for accessibility. More people are going to choose to take that road versus Merritt to get away from the dirt roads, and it's just going to exacerbate the issues that are already there. So I would strongly encourage a four-way stop or a light. We see accidents there all the time with our staff and our patrons coming to visit the water park. It's dangerous as is, and I think it's just going to highlight that once it's paved. Thank you.
Yes, and thanks for your concern on that. We will definitely look again at the studies and information that we have at the intersection. And again, if it does warrant it, we would do what we need to do to keep the intersection safe.
Okay. I've got another question in the chat. Joseph wants to know, can an owner vehicle be cited for parking on the 4-inch paved shoulder or the 2-inch gravel shoulder if they are inside the stripe and not in the roadway?
I'll take this one, James. They would have to be within the travel portion of the roadway. So if they're parking beyond that white line, or I guess towards the ditch on the white line, then technically that would not be restricted. So that's again where we would have to monitor and determine what the impacts of those vehicles parking along there are, and then move forward with potentially some restriction, or working with the township on what their parking lot, if they need to expand that or if they can.
Awesome. Okay, and then Joseph also asked, what is happening with the driveways that are coming off Bemis Road? Is every single driveway going to get a paved driveway apron?
Yes, yes. So every driveway will be modified to where it can access safely in and out of our road. But every driveway is going to be a little bit different. So that's a great question. That's something that we can definitely share with you once we have all that figured out.
Awesome. Okay, Sydney Tyler, I see you have your hand raised, so I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Hi, so I heard that you said that basically Bemis Road was like targeted in this project, but I still don't quite understand why the street is being paved. Can you specify like what's the benefit to the residents for having this road paved?
Yeah, James, I'll jump in on this one. And Sydney, thank you for the question. So basically the reconstruction and the paving of this portion of Bemis Road between Stony Creek and Hitchingham was identified as part of the current road millage. We're in the last year of the current millage. But again, going into that, we identified the roads to be worked on countywide. The reason that we selected this portion of Bemis Road was twofold. Number one, we look at the amount of traffic on the road. Based on our most recent traffic count, there's just shy of 900 cars a day on this portion of Bemis Road. So that is a significant number of cars on an unpaved road. We look at our maintenance history and see how frequently we have to respond and do spot patching and scraping and dust control on a road. And then we also looked at overall, what we're trying to do is provide a connection between primary paved roads. So Bemis Road to the east of here is paved. It's a paved primary county road. Hitchingham Road north of Bemis is a primary paved county road. And then Stony Creek, the same. It's a paved primary road. So this was a good opportunity through the road millage to provide a better connection and provide a paved route in this part of the county. So again, it's multiple considerations that go into that decision making, but those were some of the thoughts that the Road Commission had in determining that we were going to undertake this project.
Okay. I mostly want to just say a statement that one of the reasons why at least some people like myself moved to this area is because we wanted it to be rural. We wanted, we have small kids and we didn't want cars zipping around. And one of the reasons is dirt road can kind of slow people down. So it's more of a statement, but yeah, Augusta Township is rural and it'd be nice to keep it rural, but apparently not going to happen. Second, you kind of said that it was focused on, or you told what it was, what you wanted it for, but is this also in the hopes that eventually there will be more housing in this area? Is this like small steps for increasing like the population or like subdivision housing?
No, it's not, Sydney. Really, our decision is based on the current picture. We don't have any knowledge of, intended developments. This isn't a build it and they will come type scenario. The Road Commission isn't responsible for land use decisions. That really goes back to the townships. As far as land use and decisions at that level, you'd have to speak with your township about it. But us paving this part of Bemis Road, there's not like a background intention on that.
Okay. And then the last question is about repairs and costs. So, especially when you have asphalt and the type of winters that we have, the roads become ruined after one or two winters. So, how often are we expected to have, this roadway either closed or have it constantly repaired on? But yeah, what do you see for the future repairs and where is the money coming from?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Sydney. And again, we've talked a little bit here about the road millage, and really what that millage has allowed the Road Commission to do is to effectively target roads that are in good and fair condition, and then keep up on preventative maintenance. And some of the preventative maintenance steps that we use on the roads would be things like crack seal and chip seal. And when the road gets to a point, coming back out and doing a mill and resurfacing of the road. And so with this being a new road, we're going to have an opportunity to keep up on that part of the work, that preventative maintenance work. Unfortunately, we have several miles of county road that have deteriorated to the point where they're in poor condition. And at that point, really all you can do with a road that's in poor condition is it's a more extensive reconstruct of the road. But again, here we're going to be creating a new road cross section, building a new section of asphalt pavement, and then the Road Commission can keep up with a regular investment schedule to keep it in good condition.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I have some other questions. Dave is asking when the last traffic volume study was done on Bemis Road on both sides of Stony Creek. Do we have that information at hand, or is that something that we should circle back on with Dave?
No, actually, I've got it right here, Emma. And so,
Awesome.
I mentioned as far as traffic counts on Bemis Road, the most recent counts that we took were last year. They were in 2023. And so, looking at Bemis Road so we've got Bemis Road east of Hitchingham. So again, that's east of Hitchingham, just beyond our project limits here. The traffic count there was about 1,800 vehicles in a 24-hour period. And then I mentioned Bemis Road east of Stony Creek Road. Again, there was a traffic count taken there, and that was 876 cars in a 24-hour period. So understandably, there is a drop in the number of vehicles. The bigger subdivisions are to the east of Hitchingham Road, so it makes sense that there's more vehicles down there, but still a significant number of vehicles on this portion, this unpaved portion of Bemis Road. When you get close to 900 vehicles a day, that's a lot of vehicles to maintain on an unpaved section of county road.
Awesome. Okay. This question will probably be more for the directors. Will J is asking, what's the best way for us to be part of the impending millage renewal this summer to help share priorities for the next 4 years? Brett, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, we're currently going through our plan with the townships on our plan for how we selected the roads. We use our asset management plan or asset management practices when we're selecting those roads, and that's done through a rating system. So we're looking at where 1 is a very poor road, 10 is a brand new road like that will be here for Bemis. And so we're looking to spread those dollars throughout all the townships, and the funding that we receive within each township goes back into that township. And so using our asset management practices, we want to, like Aaron brought up earlier, we want to keep those good roads good. And to do that, we do treatments such as crack sealing, chip sealing. And so when we look at our map, we're looking at what our primary road system, what those ratings are, and then we're choosing those roads. Certainly we work with the townships on if there's a certain treatment that we have and then we want to trade that for another treatment, we can do that. But we're working closely with our township partners on coming up with the best plan, but we're mainly trying to we focus that mainly on our asset management plan that we've put out to determine what roads should be improved.
Awesome. Thank you. Just a comment from Casey's iPhone. She said she's so happy the road is going to be paved and she appreciates that we're putting money into a road. Okay, and then I see Chris Wood, you have your hand raised, so I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Yep, thanks. I just had a quick question. I appreciated the clarification on the T-ticket paving amount. Is the plan to curve into those areas at the intersection of T-ticket and Bemis?
You mean like a radius for the approach, or what do you mean by curve?
Yeah, James, I'm thinking.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute. Yeah, exactly. A radius curve right there as you come into the approach of T-ticket.
Yep. So when we do have our best practices guidelines on designing approaches, and it will be curved to the traffic that's needed in the area.
Awesome. Okay. Sydney Tyler, I do see you have your hand raised. This will probably be the last question because we are rounding here on an hour, but I'll ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Hi. So last question. You're doing asphalt versus concrete. Can you speak to why you're choosing one material versus the other?
So typically in Washtenaw County, we actually don't have a lot of concrete pavements. Typically we do go with asphalt because we have more readily available plants in the area. That comes into play when it comes to a big road like this, where there's a lot of work and a lot of money that goes into that type of work. So typically asphalt in this area would be preferable because we can get more asphalt for the money that we spend on the job.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then one last comment from Joseph. He just says, great work and a great idea and medium for building bridges with the residents that are going to be impacted by this work of our good office. So thank you everyone for joining. I just want to remind all of our viewers here today that you can find all of this information, including the recording of this meeting. So if you missed any part of this presentation, you can go to the project webpage on wcroads.org. You can look through the slideshow, watch the recording, see any project updates that are posted. You can also reach out to James if you have questions later, or if you want to elaborate on what's happening with construction. Thank you so much for joining today's meeting regarding the Bemis Road paving project. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. Thanks. Bye.